Hi, everyone. I'm Joy Jackson, and welcome to A Joyful Evolution. I have the privilege of introducing a very dear friend, best-selling author, intuitive, and host of Waking Up Solutionary TV, Dr. Tatiana Irvin. Tatiana, thank you so much for joining us today.
Oh, Joy, it is always a thrill and a pleasure to get into dialogue with you about big concepts that are impacting all of us and giving the dialogue back to our community. There's so much exciting details for us to be able to share and discuss and see where they segue.
I agree. And that's one of the reasons I'm so excited to have you on today, because I am so motivated to showcase the work of folks like yourself that I think are just powerful way showers in our community and just in the world at large. And to be able to kind of just boost a signal about your work, about their work, and just make it easier for everyone to find you. Now, I know that we've had some great conversations before that some people watching may have seen, but just for those that maybe are seeing you here for the first time today, would you mind just spending like a few minutes talking a little bit about your book, The Reluctant Intuitive, which is great. I encourage everyone to take a look if they haven't already, and just kind of what led you to write it, and also to start your amazing talk show, which I love. Solutionary is just, it's one of the most, I think, engaging and inspirational and positive shows and series that I've come across in a long time.
That is a real honor to get that feedback from you, Joy. And I appreciate that because we want to know that the content that we're putting out is making a difference when we feel drawn to do it. And you've been a guest on my show. And that's exactly how all of this started. Was I looked at your content, saw what you were putting out, and I went, I want happy, hopeful people to be part of the solutionary thinking that we are trying to bring out to those that have spent too much time maybe picking up the wrong thought stream from mainstream media, or even some of the disclosure movement that isn't working on getting the solutions out as much as they are giving some of the hard-hitting news, because we kind of have to go through stages. So, Joy, back at you, my friend.
Bless you. Thank you.
Of course, it's genuine. You know, it's funny, when I listen to other content creators, whether they're on YouTube or they're speaking and they're doing the retreat circuit, you hear, I woke up in 2012, or I woke up in 2008, or I've been awoke for 20 years. And then there is a thought stream along the lines of, well, I never really quite went to sleep. And that's the category that I was in. And that's why the reluctant intuitive, because I don't think we ever really 100% go to sleep unless we put ourselves to sleep with denial of all of our intuitive abilities, of every emotional, empathic hit we get, with excessive medications or alcohol or too much high frequency chaos in our lives. All of us have those intuitive abilities. But as a young child, I've got to tell you, it was a really rough thing to grow up in Los Angeles, where for all of its opportunities, you were more your external facade than you were your internal brilliance or your own creative contribution. How you looked was heavily weighed in. And so believe it or not, I was never blonde enough, thin enough, tan enough, all of the enough for the physical, like most young women perceive themselves. And growing up, it was just a matter of, I see things, and even though my church that I grew up in, and was a wonderful faith to grow up in, very family-based, I grew up LDS and have a wonderful, strong background of, legacy of family in that religion and great values. But as much as it professed that you could see a spiritual world beyond a physical world, through the auras on the murals outside, in the chapels, etc., different angels or Christ or whatever happened to be what they were personifying, it wasn't okay, I discovered at a young age, to tell people that I was seeing those light auras or this kind of energy frequency coming off of people, because that apparently was not something the common person was supposed to be able to do. Only those that were special or ordained or, whatever the category niche happened to be. So it was a really powerful thing to learn filters, and we all have needed them on this planet. But as a reluctant intuitive, just because you put on filters doesn't mean that you shut it all down. And I don't think that I was ever supposed to, so that I would eventually trust it a little bit more. And like so many now that are talking about being woke, and they're developing their intuitive abilities by cleansing and purifying their bodies and detoxing the pineal gland and doing meditation and breath work and listening to binaural beats and hemisync that bring up the frequency of their minds and get their left and right hemispheres more in sync. There's so many that are pursuing accessing that intuition, and I'm just one of many that got the hit. You need to write this book. I had an active coaching practice and taught, and I wrote the book, The Reluctant Intuitive, because I did it kicking and screaming because I didn't want to be that public about my work at the time. There is a shy woman in here, believe it or not. And so it's Reluctant Intuitive, Soulful and Practical Guide, and it kind of takes my readers through how I grew up with seeing, sensing, having clear cognizance, having, the prophetic dreams that were meant to be a precognitive state to make better choices maybe, or to see some of the milestones as I was coming towards some danger, and put it out there and remind everybody, I'm not special. Mediums, psychics, intuitive empaths, we all have it. You just have to tap in. And that was the goal of the book. And then that led to the show, because it seemed like it was a good place to start to get people on board with being the solution.
Oh, that's wonderful. And I know that your book resonated with me on many levels because I could really relate to it. And what I love the most about it, it's a very practical guide, and well, I mean, actually that's, I really looked at the book, I'm like, oh, well, because it says it's a practical, no, but it truly is. It truly
that was the right response.
Very grounded. It's in practical tools that people can pick up right away and get to using. And I think many of us, exactly that, it's in my work as a professional psychic, all these years, one of the things that a common theme that comes up a lot with folks that I work with is just the fact that they feel as if possessing intuitive abilities or these extrasensory abilities are something for a chosen few. Even like with dreaming, oh, I don't dream. I never recall, and
yeah.
It's as natural as breathing. It's just, we've just become a little bit disconnected from it. And it's kind of like with martial arts, or when we develop any new practice, we just don't have the muscle memory developed yet. And I think your tools really help people that apply them to start developing strengthening that connection to their higher awareness, and to develop that muscle memory and mastery of awakening. Or no, I mean, that is true. Awakening is a process. It's not something that you just flip on. When we think of awakening, we think of flipping on the light switch and just the lights come on. Everything's clear,
right?
And with spiritual awakening, it's not quite how that works. At least for most of us, I think. Right.
It's so unique, isn't it? You have people that see a documentary and then, they start to get the flickers. Others run headlong into a medical issue and realize I'm not getting the solutions here. And then they start to discover things. I just remember being a 5-year-old on a swing, and it wasn't my first memory of being so aware. I'm a big, big soul in a teeny tiny body. And I remember just being on the swing, and I write about this in my book as an example, because I really want those that remember from a young age to reflect, how soon did you actually know you were more than what you were conditioned or groomed to believe about yourself? Because as soon as we start to realize we've known things all along, it helps break all of those additional denial boundaries that society has placed around us, or our dogma has placed, our education has placed. But I remember being on the swing and going, all right, just enjoy being a little girl. It was like my soul was giving my body avatar advice. Just enjoy being a little girl. You got your little church shoes on, your pretty little dress, and you're on a swing, and there's nothing you need to do right now. Just enjoy being human and enjoy being young. You'll know when there's time to be acted to be in action from a higher space of direction and intuition. And so, you know, we have a lot of brilliant starseed crystal children, whatever you want to call them. We have so many brilliant children that are coming in more attuned, that if nothing else, I would love to know that my book can be a gift to parents that are saying, my kid says really bizarre things. They seem to know things that I haven't taught them, or it doesn't make sense, so that they can encourage our children not having to go to sleep and be dumbed down by a system that's really less than what their potential could provide them, if not hampered, you know?
Oh, yes. We are so adaptive, and we come in hardwired for everything we need to be fully blossomed beings, I believe. You know, it's even though we come into this heavier density, we are able to entrain with our environment and the energies around us. And so if we're not aware that the energies that are coming at us when we're first born in, because everyone else around us is still in that same state of a bit of confusion, you know, they come through the veil, why are we here, you know, and just
Right.
trying to awaken themselves, and still being kind of just in that state of just disconnection from, you know, I know our parents mean well, you know, in our birth family, they do,
Yeah.
you know, and even the ones that were probably the most difficult and challenging, it's not as if, um, you know, we're all bozos on the bus, so to speak. And so we have a lot of conditioning to undo, but then we also awaken to the idea that what we think, what our environment, everything has the ability to help us just re-entrain with it. And it can really make accessing those higher aspects of our being so much easier.
Hmm.
And that also allows us to be in a very good state of positivity and good health and well-being, kind of despite whatever's going on around us. And that's one of the things that I love about your work, is you're really inspiring people, no matter what it may look like is going on out there in the 3D world, is that it can still be a very beautiful, joyful, and abundant experience, if we choose for it to be, and make a
Hmm.
conscious choice to just bring more of those qualities into our lives. And that it's not even about being perfect, it's just about learning how to just learning about what powerful co-creators we really are, and just getting our empowerment back and realizing we are the director, the, you know, the actor, and the starring lead in our own movie, and we really do get to choose, you know, the supporting cast. And that's it's a
Absolutely.
beautiful place, a very powered place to come from. Your new series, I think, is it was felt so synchronistic, because I've been really drawn into, I do a lot of working with the earth energies, call it earth angel Gaia, however one chooses to look at our natural world. I've
Hmm.
always been very drawn to working with earth as a being, as a sentient being. And as of even more recent, I started to just have these light bulb moments around, you know, just being in nature in itself has the ability to give us this powerful cellular transformation, which works on us in all levels. And, you know, some of my most powerful moments and awakening moments, or aha moments, if you'd like to call it, have been in nature, because that is what we're a part of. I mean, the earth is already heart centered. We just kind of have to plug into her again, and we've just gotten separated that over recent decades. I think there was a time where it became it was already a more natural and innate thing for us to do. Just like with animals, you look outside and an animal, they know what to do, because if they've been in their natural environment their entire lives anyhow, they know what to do. And for us to awaken that, so do we. You know, when we're left to, when we're really, you know, allowed to be at our natural optimal best, we really do have everything at our disposal to be these thriving, um, happy, satisfied, you know, race of beings. And
Mm.
I was going to say that your series couldn't come at a better time for that. And if I may kind of just jump right in to making sure that we have a little time to really talk about that, because I want to make sure everyone has a chance not only to learn about how you got there, but really what the whole project is about with New Earth anchoring, and why we need new Earth anchors, and why it's so important to you, and what inspired that.
Okay, so
Yeah.
we're going to get real now, aren't we, Joy?
Yeah.
Because nothing new is born without the natural cycles of something passing away, or at least a transcendence from one thought pattern to another. So the same is true for me. What was born out of the book had a lot to do with old belief systems or old lifestyles, old relationships, a perception of self and identity that needed to be released so that something new and something of a higher resonance and frequency could come in. Natural soulful progression. Same is true with the earth anchoring. And I'm going to be honest, the earth anchoring work is a savior work for me. And this is where we're going to get real. I know what it's like, and have written about it in my book, to be a homeless woman with 4 children and 2 dogs, and cars in repossession, and utilities shut off, and literally skin and bones trying to feed my children because of a disastrous abandonment and divorce, and how not to do what my natural propensity would have been, which was to be the bona fide, everyone would have agreed with me, veritable victim. I'm a victim. Can you see what happens to a woman that experiences these things? How do I feed off of being a victim of the system? And we can all do that, and we can all feel that way. But ultimately, it would have locked me in a place of stagnated growth that would not have ever led to doing the work that I do now, being the coach now, teaching the classes, doing the retreats, writing the book, doing the show, and enjoying this time with you, Joy. And equally, the Earth Anchor work came on the heels. It had already started to be evolved, but it came to a very poignant level of application for me after a very, very painful experience of losing a child. And some of your viewers may be aware of that, because sometimes we've shared audiences, and I'm grateful for all of those that have been very kind and compassionate, but I lost a child to suicide. And I can't explain to you what happens other than to say, for a parent that goes through something like this, there is the potential to have a split where your soul, in all of its strength and its conviction and its self-knowledge and its true understanding about what the reasons for incarnation are, and what this third density and this dimensional realm, this matrix that we live in, is about. And it can remain strong, although impacted. But the personality avatar that is what I'm always looking to refine and develop, which is this human woman with this name and this title, and the pursuits that she has, and is very much a human mother of a child, that person is shattered. It's an evisceration and a shattering, and you can't even get an extreme enough word. And my soul said, we're going to lose this avatar if we cannot take her understanding and her application to the next level, because we cumulatively, as humanity, and many of our cosmic brothers and sisters, if your audience is open to that, and I think that they might be, are part of an ongoing soulful evolution and transition taking place on this planet that I have no doubt that I'm here for, and I've always seen in prophetic dreams that I would be here for. But my work wasn't enough for that impact. I had to literally turn everything off and go outside into nature and say, show me, heal me, mend this shattered woman, break open new levels of communication with the sentience from the microbial life that is spiritual, that resonates through every bit of that vortex rung of insect life and the plants and the animals and the divinity in the ether, so that I can continue. Because if you can't heal her, we're not going to make it, and the work will be done. And it was a deep dive, Joy, to go into the Earth Anchor work, sufficient that I can say to anyone who thinks that I had it easy, or assuming the same thing about you, we never know the journey that someone else has gone through. And you can't really speak from a place of wisdom, not just academic knowing, but wisdom, until you've had to walk that path and you've had to embody that path. And this isn't bragging, this is humility. Nobody wants to go through homelessness and the kind of depravity that I've gone through, and maybe some of yours had. I hold space for those that have lost a family member, because this transition, this earth life is so challenging right now. But if I could anchor to the evolving earth and her releasing from that dense 3D and spend more time in that fourth, fifth, and maybe even higher densities, because it was an embodiment and a daily discipline and practice, I would be able to have something of value to teach for others that have gone through a lot of loss and devastation. And that has been where I have found my purpose and ability to renew.
Wow. That is, thank you. Thank you so much for just your strength and grace that you're demonstrating for everyone. I know that many of us can easily, when we're looking at someone that we, have seen as a teacher or a public figure or a mentor, and we often see them after they come through the other side, or hear them speaking to, these topics, as though, as though we're going to just have a pass, that we're done and we're away. No, and it couldn't be further from the truth. If anything, I find that most folks that have really gone through some powerful transitions signed up for a pretty heavy curriculum, and because they did come here to anchor and to help crystallize and catalyze some really big heart energy that, for many of us, in order to end the separation from our heart, we sometimes do have to be shaken up a bit. We always like to think that may not be required, and it's not necessarily, like they say, suffering is optional and all that, but catalyst, just like when we go through school, in order to learn, we don't know what we don't know. As they say, you don't know what you don't know until you're there, and it's a continuum. So all we can kind of hope to do is, as we're kind of polishing ourselves like a stone, we hope that each time we go through the silical process, because it's really what it is. It's just a matter of recognizing it quicker and being able to get grounded and centered quicker. And then in time, hopefully things do kind of smooth out, but the growing and the lessons are always going to be there. And that, if anything, what I'm most inspired by are those that, even though, despite what they're dealing with in life, whether it be a health crisis, whether it be a relationship crisis or an economical crisis, that they are still willing to be so authentic and open, and knowing that this is just part of what we came here for, and that by allowing people a window into that, maybe that could help somebody else struggling too. When I was going through recovery from addiction, that really about killed me. It really was one of the things that about took me out, and a lot of people around me I've seen be taken out by, because it's one of the more common symptoms that we have of being separated from source and our true being, because we're always trying to medicate into we're grasping for things. So it taught me, being in these rooms when I was going into recovery of like AA and whatnot, because that was a part of my recovery journey, and it was really helpful, because I got to just see so many people just being real and being truthful, and no BS. It was just people there under the common purpose of love and support, and that it wasn't about being perfect. We don't learn through being perfect and having it all figured out. Just like we don't enter, kindergarten thinking, oh, well, you must know how to read and write. You must have all that figured out. You know how to share. You're good. No, we all have to go through that journey one step at a time. It's just
Right.
a matter of just how much love and grace that we show each other as we're walking through it, I think. And you're
Oh my
a powerful
gosh.
example of that.
Joy, you just said it. And that was the perfect sandwich to what I was saying at the beginning, which is you really can't teach something from a compassionate and empathy steeped place until you've gone through having your dross burned off through the experience that then breeds wisdom. Knowing something academically, knowing it with practicality isn't the same thing as knowing it because it's been born in you. And that deeper lesson that creates wisdom not only makes you maybe feel more centered in having the passion and some authority to speak on it, but maybe more importantly, exactly what you're saying is when there is this empathy and this realness and this compassion, when we can be kind to those that are also sharing broken places and say, listen, I've walked down that fiery path. The dross has been burned off and it's not perfect, but I've been where you've been, or I can feel what you're saying. And I got a couple steps further. Can I embody for you? Can I share with you some of this journey so that you really don't think that you're walking through this darkness alone? And I'm now part of a very unpopular club. This is what those of us that have lost someone to suicide say. This is a club no one wants to join. You don't want a family member to leave. And trust me, you don't want your child to quit on this world because they're looking around saying it's not changing fast enough. That was ultimately my daughter's pain. She saw the corruption. She was very intuitive and wasn't able ultimately with all that she was impacted with to get a handle on it. So to have someone leave and then be surrounded by others that have no idea what it's like to go through that intrinsic of a loss, you seek out others that get where you're coming from. And the universe brought me a soul sister right away through, again, miraculous means, the right person saying the right thing at the right time. And she lost a child. Her eldest daughter, same exact age as my daughter, similar diagnoses and issues that they had struggled with, addiction being one of them. And she lost her only 5 months before I lost my daughter. And we just came together like this beautiful, soulful mirror of, I see you. I see you. Thank you for being in this tiny and awkward and painfully unpopular club that neither one of us wanted to join because I felt like I was alone in here. And I just want to take that to the next level for your listeners. Listen, whatever any of you are going through, remember, you came here by choice. We all came to this very tough PhD rock at the most epic time in human history as we know it in recorded history, and some would say really the most epic time, as we are rising in vibration sufficient to find a new resonance level where the blinders come off and the deniability to what true brilliant evolving divinity that we are is no longer in question, and control systems fall away. And as this earth is taking these big breaths, in the Schumann resonance that we keep seeing spiking from the 7.83 to well over 40, 50, beyond what the graphs can show at suspended periods of time, sometimes just for an hour or two, sometimes for an entire 12 to 24 hour period, we are going to feel that. All of us are going to feel the challenges that are there in our frequencies trying to recalibrate with her. So on top of what we're dealing with professionally, on top of what we're dealing with in terms of layoffs or cost of living or, unfortunate circumstances that are challenging our finances or our retirement or our struggles with our spouse or our struggles with our children, our struggles with our health, we're all dealing with something and we are all being pushed through this evolutionary state together. So if part of why I've gone through what I've gone through, and I'm not kidding, I mean, abandonment, desertion, homelessness, 4 kids, 2 dogs, no car, no utilities, and again, not a club I wanted to join. And then experiencing the losses of 2018 that even quite honestly, Joy, I mean, just so your listeners are clear, I don't know what thing I've missed so far because I even got notified by the IRS in 2019 that I was hacked by someone who took my social security number and ran off with my identity, and that I'm responsible for paying attention to how they use it for employment and for credit. I mean, it was just like a complete, let's just let's get this lady down. Let's shut her up and get her off the talking circuit and break her. Let's break her. And I know that I'm here for this time. And if I did not go outside and practice the biodynamic permaculture embodiment principles of I am one with this earth and I'm going to ride her. I'm going to lovingly steward and mirror back the resonant love frequency that she has patiently bestowed upon all sentient life on her, and certainly patiently put up with a lot of shenanigans by this crazy humanity that has been, on her back for quite some time. If I can do it for myself, and I can really practice it for myself, which includes everything from growing my own food to knowing how to go out and get anchored with her every single day in the bottoms of my feet, get into the breath technique, run the chakra energy, talk to the insects, talk to the birds, get my garden on board with my singing to it. I mean, every level of practicality, talking to the elementals. If I can practice it and I can embody it and I can be just a little bit further down the road, I can be relatable to others that are going through some of these same challenges. And they really want to be here for the big show, this wonderful evolution that all of us are going through, which I know is going to be spectacular, Joy.
Bless you. I agree, love. I completely agree. A big yes to all of what you've said, and also just to all the work that you've brought forward. If anyone watching hasn't had an opportunity, I encourage you to please not only to check out her book, but to check out her series. Each interview I've watched with Dr. Tatiana has a theme that is so relatable and has some really powerful way showers on the show that with just that, it's the integration. I realize that every time I get a new tool, or I think I've had that aha moment, it's inevitable there's going to come a point where you get to apply what you've learned. Life has a way of, let's see.
Painfully sometimes, yeah, right?
Painfully. Yeah. And hopefully in time, as we become a little more familiar with the curriculum, we come to anticipate it a little bit more. I mean, I realize there's only a certain degree into which we can do that, but I know exactly what you're saying. Through the practice of working with Earth, I'm finding, because everything being so cyclical, that I'm now able to look at the seasons and watch Earth and see on the macro and the micro how they mirror each other identically.
Oh my gosh, yes.
And for those who are feeling really inspired right now to become a new Earth anchor, or already know they're there, and I'll be sure as well to place all of the links and resources of where people can come find you and find your work, but where can people come to check out not only your series, but you also have some great events coming up I'd like to make sure everybody knows about. While we still have a few minutes, I'd love to make sure.
Thank you, Joy. Yeah. Absolutely. Yes. I mean, it's about community, isn't it? You and I came together because we shared community, and I got to see what your contributions were, and we've built this rapport. There is such a profound need for those of us that have either always been slightly awake or it's been breaking through over time, to find others in our lives with which we can relate, that we can test some of the big thoughts with, some of the big concepts. We can stretch those boundaries that are elastic and looking for some safe company to be able to bridge those topics, because not necessarily everyone in our immediate, family life, professional life, social life necessarily wakes up at the same rate that we do, or is even interested in some of the topics that are what stirs us, right? So the community is the biggest piece. And I am part of both Earth and Equus that's being offered by Shelley Whitehouse and I would just tell your listeners to go to solutionarytv.com, so www.solutionaryt.com /events. Go to the events and you will see that not only do we have retreats that take place right now, currently they're all scheduled for North Carolina. We've got one coming up in November, and I'll have you guys take a look at that. But it is a very deep, intensive, intimate, highly supportive space where we not only go on land that is amazingly high vibration on over 100 acres of forested property in North Carolina. We're kind of central, slightly west of the mountains, but it's also horse property where these horses are tuned to working with those that are going through traumas, transitions, their own breakthroughs. And you don't have to be a rider. You don't even have to be a horse person. You never even have to get on a horse. The whole point is, how can you work with your own level of releasing inhibitions, releasing some shadow, opening up to your connection with the earth, and even getting to the point where the horses, which are kind of really compassionate creatures, but they're also no nonsense. They'll mirror back to you if you're not being authentic with them. And so they're a wonderful asset to the work, which is why it's called Earth and Equus. We'll be working with crystal gridding, understanding how we anchor with our chakra system and with our evolving DNA stream with the earth, and being able to pick up higher levels of consciousness and resonation through brainwave states. It's a very deep and intimate group that we'll be working with in November, and the class isn't full. So for those of you that are interested, we're thrilled to have any of you, or that just sounds like it's yummy. And we also have coming up in October from the 22nd to the